of the Moriarty Theater. I'm Senior Master Sergeant Bill Geary from the 328th, and I'll be your narrator this afternoon. Please stand for the playing of our national anthem and the invocation. Chaplain Bryant.
I invite you to pray in your tradition as I pray in mine. God, we know that your word tells us that you didn't give us a spirit of fear, but of courage, love, and self-control. Thank you for the life and legacy of Colonel John Moriarty, who modeled that spirit of power, love, and self-control to the men and women he served then, and the example that his legacy provides us still today as a model of courage, love, and selfless service. Thank you for the chance to remember our heritage and impress the memory of Colonel Moriarty permanently upon this squadron by the renaming of this theater. Bless now this service and those who walk these halls, both today and the many years to come. I pray this in the name of Christ. Amen.
Thank you. You may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, we're honored to have several distinguished guests at today's ceremony. As appropriate, please hold your applause until the end. Please welcome our presiding official, Colonel Joseph Contino, 914th Air Wing Commander.
Like saying something now?
No, just introducing you, sir. Oh. Deputy Commander, the 914th Air Wing, Abigail Brandt. Or Abigail Kent, I apologize. Colonel, retired Walter Gordon. Colonel John Moriarty's daughters, Miss Julie Moriarty and Miss Marion Lewis. We'd also like to take this opportunity to welcome all the colonels, commanders, directors, chiefs, first sergeants, and other distinguished guests. And finally, we'd like to welcome every member of the 328th, both past and present. This ceremony serves as a moment for us all to remember our rich history. Several individuals have been crucial in this preserving our squadron's history. Because of their work, we have had the privilege of knowing our squadron's past, and the following video is a snapshot of what this squadron has accomplished.
The rich heritage of Niagara Falls Air Reserve Station begins with this airframe, the C-47 Skytrain. On April 15th, 1944, the 3rd Combat Cargo Group activated at Bowman Field in Louisville, Kentucky. Captain John Moriarty led the Lucky 3rd, which consisted of 185 members and 25 C-47 Goonie birds. According to wing legend, the Lucky 3rd's horseshoe comes from the shape of the garland of roses worn by the winning Derby horse, which in May of 1944 was 7-1 Longshot Pensive. The 3rd Combat Cargo Group's mission was to serve as an airdrome squadron, a mobile unit that would quickly move into a newly captured airfield and transport troops and supplies as ordered. In the spring of 1944, the outcome of World War II was far from secure. Nazi Germany occupied Paris and controlled most of Europe. As the Allied nations prepared for the D-Day invasion, the 3rd was deployed to Sylhet, India, and tasked with flying the hump, an incredibly dangerous cargo run over the Himalayan mountains. From September to December of 1944, the 3rd suffered serious losses. 8 planes crashed or were shot down, taking the lives of 25 aircrew. On September 29, 1945, while operating in Kunming, China, the 3rd Combat Cargo Squadron was redesignated the 328th Troop Carrier Squadron until its deactivation from active duty. In 1958, the 328th reactivated in the reserves and settled here at Niagara Falls Air Reserve Station. From 1958 to 1971, the 328th flew the C-119 Flying Boxcar. During this period, they supported the Cuban Missile Crisis and the Vietnam War. In January of 1963, Air Force Reserve reassigned the 328th to the newly established 914th Troop Carrier Group. In 1971, the 914th would acquire a new airframe, the beloved C-130 Hercules. The 914th would fly the Herc throughout the Persian Gulf War. Aircrew from the 914th delivered the Gulf War its first medevac mission. Additionally, they also conducted tactical resupply airdrops to troops in the 18th Airborne Corps. The 914th would then deploy troops in support of Operations Iraqi Freedom, New Dawn, Freedom, Inherent Resolve, and Freedom Sentinel, all on the wings of the Hercules. Today marks a new generation of air power for the 914th. As we close on the 73 years of our historic legacy as an airlift wing, we open a new chapter with our redesignation of Air Refueling Wing with the KC-135 Stratotanker. So it's with great pride that the airmen of the 914th embrace the past as a strong foundation for our future.
We've invited a special guest here to say a few words. A previous squadron commander and also served as our 914th Wing Commander, Colonel Retired Walter Gordon. Before he comes forward, please give your attention to the following historical video detailing Colonel Moriarty's legacy and the path taken to discover it.
The 328th Airlift Squadron got its start during World War II as an active duty unit, the 3rd Combat Cargo Squadron flying C-47s. Captain or Major John Moriarty in 1943 was the first commander of the 3rd Combat Cargo Squadron. They had a fine combat record and did so well with so few losses that they earned the nickname the Lucky Third. Our knowledge of our history with respect to the 3rd was largely lost, but then it was resurrected by one of our flight engineers, Dave Tarnowski, who in the late 90s learned about the history of the 3rd Combat Cargo Squadron and reached out and contacted Colonel Moriarty as well as other retired members of the squadron.
Colonel Sandy Way was our commander at the time, and he asked me to look into getting the mushroom patch made official, and you have to work that through AFRC history. Well, I called him up and he said, there's just no way. But with a number like 328, he probably had lineage to a World War II unit. He did some research, and I went into a locker in the locker room that had a disorganized pile of squadron history and memorabilia. And I went through that, and I found a World War II roster of the 3rd Combat Cargo Squadron, our original squadron. And it indicated that Colonel Moriarty was the commander. And then a little bit further into digging through that locker, I found just a piece of notepaper. It said Moriarty, and it had a phone number. I said, well, he's in his mid-80s. What are the chances that this phone number would even work? So I called up the phone number, and his daughter answers the phone. And she said, we're just moving Daddy out of this house. In a couple of days, his phone number would have been disconnected. So it was just a stroke of luck, and she handed the phone to her father. So we had planned in September of 2001 to have a dedication ceremony of the airplane. And I had been corresponding with the World War II guys right along, so they were aware that this event was coming up. Funny story though, one of his World War II pilots who hadn't seen him since they disbanded in 1945, Lieutenant Cecil Bailey, told me, he said, Dave, he said, I know this is silly for an 85-year-old man to say, but I'm intimidated about meeting him again. Apparently, Colonel Moriarty was very fair, by all accounts, very fair but stern commander during World War II. But he had the plaque made for the front of the C-47. He had some street signs named. We named the street after Colonel Moriarty. I don't know where it came from, but once I started talking to these guys and realizing the significance of their contribution, I had a passion about it. I couldn't let it go. Even though we were generations apart doing basically the same mission, there were more similarities than there were differences. Truly members of the greatest generation, every one of them.
Dave Tarnowski and I tried to make the squadron very aware of their history with the reunions and the things we did with these men. I think knowing your history and the sacrifices and the accomplishments made by those who came before you serves as both an example and an inspiration for your own performance. You see how good you can be, and you also see sort of an expectation for you to live up to carry on that tradition. I tried to be the best squadron commander I could. I tried to make a difference. I think I did, but I am certainly no Colonel John Moriarty. He was a personal hero of mine, and I miss him very much already.
Now it is my distinct pleasure to introduce Colonel Walter Gordon.
There goes my talk. I was just going to say that all over again. I figure I shouldn't talk about the 3rd Combat Cargo Squadron, because if you wanted to hear about that, you want Dave Tarnowski up here, not me. You don't want to hear about the C-47, because then you'd want Jared Cummings up here. So I'm just going to talk to you about the man I was lucky enough to call my friend for quite a few years. I first met him at squadron reunions when Dave brought our World War II vets up here, but I didn't really get to know him until about 2004 when I was made the Wing IG, and I had to go to the IG school, wherever it is. It's somewhere down there, relatively close to Manassas. So I called Colonel Moriarty and I asked if I could come by and visit him, and he said sure. So I stopped by his house, and we started a relationship that lasted until 2 years ago, I guess. 1, 2, 3 times a year, depending on when I was in the neighborhood, or even if I wasn't, I would stop by and we would talk. I'd come into the house. He would always have some really good deli sandwiches made. I think that was Annette's doing, I believe, his daughter that's not here. And he'd heat them up. He'd say, I have instructions from Annette. I got to heat them up just right or she's going to kill me. And we would drink beer. He would always have Heineken in the fridge, and I'd have a couple of Heinekens. He would have a couple of Heinekens until he couldn't drink anymore, and then he would stop. But he still always had those Heinekens there for me. He loved dogs. There were always dogs in the house, big dogs, Akitas for a while. In fact, I got a phone call once from an Akita rescue organization in Virginia saying, we have a request from a 95-year-old man to adopt an Akita. And he put you down as a reference. I guess he had to put down someone who wasn't family. And, how do you think he would be with this dog? And I say, well, I've seen him with his dogs for years, and he loves his dogs. They're everything to him. He has a fenced-in yard. His daughter is very nearby. I don't think you could possibly find a better home for one of your Akitas. And he ended up adopting another Akita. The last dog he had was kind of a bloodhoundy kind of dog named Sherlock. And some of you can probably figure out the connection why he might have named, why Dr. Moriarty would have named a dog Sherlock. Once he got the sandwiches, we always sat in his office/library. And I wish I could paint a picture of this room. He would sit behind a desk. There'd be a window behind him. But then the whole rest of the room, floor to ceiling, was books on every topic you could imagine. And it was a very peaceful place. We'd just sit in the library. Occasionally when we were talking, he would pull out a book for reference. He knew just where they were. Oh, let's look at this one, open it up. Did you ever read this book? Oops. I think I knocked the phone off the hook here. I think good thing I saw what I did. But it was just a lovely place to talk, and it was a reflection of the man and his depths of interest and just how bright he was. And we would talk. He talked about the deployment to India. Talked about, very proud of the fact that the only time they ever had a nav in the aircraft, they didn't have any navs when they were flying the hump. The only time they ever had a nav in the aircraft is when they were deploying over the ocean to get there. And he said, we really didn't even need one then because we were going from the States to lodges, and they had this gigawatt-powered beacon, and we really didn't need a nav at all. Told me about the men he lost, the airplanes that were shot down, and how they called the route over the hump the aluminum trail because of the wreckage of the airplanes that had gone down, either due to enemy action. They had 2 airplanes that were actually shot down by Japanese Zeros, or more often the weather, because you had horrible weather and you're flying over the worst mountains in the world. He told me about the 3rd Combat Cargo Squadron P-38 Lightning. Bet you guys didn't know the 328th operated a P-38. He told me how he was at a base in theater after the war ended, and there was a lone P-38 there with a senior NCO responsible for it. And he asked him, what's this aircraft doing here? And he said, sir, everybody else left, and I can't leave till this airplane is gone. So he said, well, I'll take it off your hands. And on a subsequent mission, he flew back in a C-47 that dropped him off, and he asked the crew chief how to start the engines. And he started up that P-38, and he flew it back to their base. And he flew that P-38 around theater for several months until an old buddy of his who asked if he could take it up, crashed it. But the 328th actually operated a P-38 Lightning for several months. Much of the time, and this probably reflects his background as a civilian, he worked at the Institute for Defense Analyses as a foreign policy analyst. We talked about current events. We talked about foreign affairs a lot. And like I said, he was one of the smartest, the most widely read men I ever knew. He was also very nuanced and objective, unlike so many of us. He did not like Hillary Clinton. Did not like Hillary Clinton. I can hear his voice today. Yeah. I don't trust her. I just don't trust her. But before all you right-wingers say, oh yeah, he was one of us, he loathed Donald Trump. Loathed Donald Trump. So we were dealing with a complicated man here who made up his mind and could always back it up. who could always back it up. When the Russians invaded Ukraine, I happened to be emailing Annette and Julie and Marion about something else, and I say, you know, one of the things I've thought of in these past months is that I really wish I could talk to your dad about this. I really wish I could hear his insights on this situation. And I thought the same thing just in the past week with what's going on in Gaza, in Israel. I really wish I could talk to my friend. And that's what he was. I'm so fortunate to call him my friend. He was my friend, my personal hero, and I miss him very much. I miss him very much. So proud to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Gordon. Thanks. Before we cut the ribbon, we have two more guests we'd like to have come forward. Major Matt Abels and Major Jared Cummings. Front and center, please. Major Abels on the left, just let me tee this up for you, bro. Yeah. So Major Abels coordinated receiving all of Colonel Moriarty's artifacts. Major Cummings built the shadow boxes that house all those artifacts in it now. Gents, please say a few words about bringing this work to fruition.
We were out at the air park dedicating the C-130. Was it a year and a half ago or so? And Walter was there. And Walter came up to me after the ceremony and had mentioned that Colonel Moriarty had a lot of personal effects, and he wanted someone from the squadron to find a safe home for them. And that's where it all started. Walter just came up to me after a ceremony that happened to be out at the air park, and he gave me the emails of Annette, Marion, and Julie. It was nice to finally meet you guys today. And we started a conversation. I wasn't sure how it would be received. Am I trying to steal your father's things? Who is this guy? Obviously, it wasn't taken like that, I don't think. And you guys were so gracious. In fact, almost to the point where I had to remind you that we're not asking for this stuff in all totality, whatever you're willing to give. But from what I can understand, we got pretty much everything that you guys had that is on display here. And when I received it, what do I do with it now? We talked to Colonel Mowers, and then that's where Jared ended up coming in, our squadron historian.
So I didn't know Colonel Moriarty personally, but I learned a lot about him by reading correspondence from family members and even home commissions, from other people's stories they told about Moriarty during his time. But what I learned and the legacy that he leaves us, missions change, airplanes change, but one thing that stays constant is people and the leadership, taking care of people. And I can say anything about Colonel Moriarty, he took good care of his people, and I think that's the legacy he leaves us and will always have with us. So if I can say anything about him, he's a great person, a great leader. More importantly, he took care of his people, and I hope we can continue with that legacy in the future.
Thank you. All right, now let's cut the ribbon. Colonel Contino, Lieutenant Colonel Mowers, Lieutenant Colonel Tracy, Miss Moriarty, Miss Lewis, please come forward and we'll cut the ribbon.
They're very dangerous.
You know, for pictures, we'll move out if you guys want to come behind us.
Oh, right.
And then we'll get a nice photo with the sign.
Yeah. He's always thinking, this kid. How about on my count? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Then wait. It'll be 1, 2, 3. Cut. Don't cut on 3. Cut 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Cut.
Beautiful. Colonel Contino, you have the floor.
I don't need that. Well, you know, when J-Rod was up here saying, take care of your people, he kept staring at me. I think I do a pretty good job of that, maybe not. I don't know. Do I, J-Rod? Ladies, come up, come on up here, got something for you. You're out of uniform. This is for you. This is my coin. No, thank you for coming. It's such an honor for you guys to be here. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a really cool coin that I wish I could claim design rights to, but I designed it. But it's really one of the neatest coins I've ever seen. It's 3D. One of our KC-135s flying in front of the falls. Thank you so much.
Oh, we have some more gifts too.
Yeah, we have more gifts for you too.
Please stay there.
Yeah. I've been here just over 2 years, October 1st, 2021, and it didn't take long for people telling me about the history of this unit and your father. So, people like me, I can only, carry the torch from people like your dad, and it's a big deal. And I think a lot of people in this room have heard me talk before. There's been a big gap between people like your dad and now, and it's just because things like World War II, people like your dad rise to the top. You know what I mean? Just out of necessity. And thanks again for coming. And I hope this is such an honor that these guys have been itching to do. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Colonel Ryan Mowers, our current squadron commander.
We have a gift from the squadron. I'd like to thank a few people. Sean Marr, he's out in the fight right now. He wasn't able to make it in, but he's a woodworker by hobby. So he made the sign. This will be mounted at the entryway of the auditorium. But he also made these, and we made 3, one to bring home to Annette. But this is our current squadron patch, and we'll give you a piece of the ribbon as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks again for coming up.
Don't forget the third one for your sister.
Yes.
I have a couple more things to say. A couple more things to say, and then I think we'll wrap it up, right?
You tell me, sir, you're the boss.
Okay. The 328. You guys can take a seat.
Yeah.
Um, 328. It's first time I met these folks. I was in the Guard, and I was their DO deployed to Al-Udeid Air Base in Qatar. And I'm thinking, oh, airlift C-130 guys flying a tanker, this is not going to be pretty. And nothing could be further from the truth. They were the most impressive there. They were eager to learn. They were eager to work. And we just kind of hit it off, kind of rest is history. The other thing I was told about on top of your father when I first got here was this patch, this mushroom patch. I guess I'll announce to the room. Carbonite was the name of our ops, and today I just changed that to mushroom ops. So a lot of people didn't like carbonate or even know where it came from. Maybe you guys can enlighten us. I don't
Lost
know.
in antiquity.
Okay, yeah, possibly. So, I've heard over the years that this mushroom has been, I would love to get the story from you guys as well as what they've already told me, but really cool history behind it. And I know that there's leaders in the past, or people that call themselves leaders, try to get rid of it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to attack it again to see if we can just make it the official patch. So, all I can say is no, right?
And they will.
And they probably will. You guys can still wear it. Yeah, so I really appreciate the retirees coming out for this. It's really exciting to have an opportunity to talk to all of you. And thanks for coming out. Give the floor back to you. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. So this concludes our ceremony for today. We invite you to participate in a barbecue with maintenance in our heritage room. Rob?
Thanks again.